The next word he uses, eris, is to have a rivalry. It's the word that would potentially be used of a politician who would do whatever they could to help their party win or themselves win an election. They would lie, they would cheat, they would steal, they would make things up. And in so doing, the whole point of it was their own selfish ambition so that their party, their sect would win. All of that is inside of this word rivalry, deception, self ambition. Paul says that some people who are talking about the gospel are doing it as a way to cause their own party and their own sect to increase and to do him harm, he says. The word that's translated proclaim or preach in a lot of texts, verse 17, could be a very positive kind of idea, and maybe they're just not preaching Christ, proclaiming Christ with the right mindset or the right spirit or motivations. I think it probably is best translated here denounce. They're denouncing Christ. This is not a group of people who are a denomination of Christians who just don't like Paul, and so they're still preaching the gospel. These people are more likely than that, they are people who are against Christ. The way Paul writes the book of Philippians later, when he writes in Philippians chapter 3 about those who are enemies of the cross, he's referring back to this same group. He says that they're legalists, that they're obsessed with obeying the law and circumcision and the different parts of the rules and regulations and commands in the Torah, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. He describes them as being obsessed over obeying the law instead of trusting in the grace of Christ. That's kind of how he characterizes them later. Here he doesn't really characterize them that way. That's not until chapter 3, but he does say that they are denouncing Christ. What appears to be the case is that those who even say that they're following Jesus, maybe they're from Jerusalem. There were parts of the Christian faith, and I use that term lightly in this case. There were people in the church, and probably a lot of people outside the church, the Jews who were also very religious, but not necessarily following Christ at this time, who were very strongly against Paul. We see that in the book of Acts. Paul in it is likely painting a picture here of groups like that, whether they're from Jerusalem or maybe there are other groups in Rome or from other parts of the Roman Empire who have followed Paul all the way up the Mediterranean coast up to Rome as he's been taken to be put in prison. They followed Paul up there, and now they're in these courts of law and they're trying to attack Paul. But it's still most likely the same group of people, the same antagonist that we see who are trying to stand against Paul in Jerusalem. It's the same kind of people or the same ideology that Paul preaches against in Galatians, that he preaches against in Ephesians, that he preaches against in Rome. Those who believe that Christ's cross isn't enough. Christ's grace isn't enough. They need to be good. They need to obey the law. They need to do good works. That group of people are those who are coming against Paul. And Paul says they're also denouncing Christ. Later, he'll call them even harsher terms. He'll call them dogs, and he'll say they're enemies. He'll say they're enemies of the cross as well.